Hello there, friends and enemies and in between people. I'm going to try to finish up in the one or two of you that ever watch these things, talking about how you come to your opinions on politics, and how you develop your body of knowledge that leads to your conclusions when you make an opinion. And the thing that I wanted to about really was how people define their words. I feel that a lot of the political disagreements that people have is just a matter of differing definitions for words. And I was reading up lately on somebody called Ludwig Wittgenstein with a W. He's a philosopher in the last century, started out as a logical positivist, followed by Bertrand Russell. And those people, when he was lecturing, he was a big shot in this area, this Wittgenstein. The logical positivists believed that there is an objective truth that can be conveyed through communication and words. And Wittgenstein changed over the years, and he came up with this concept of language as a game, words as a game. That whenever you speak, you don't actually convey always just a literal meaning of something, but there's a combination of many things that occur every time you communicate in words. And I'll give you a quick example is whenever you say, "Did you bring that apple?" That seems like a fairly simple comment. And a comment that meant he wanted an apple. Did you bring it? I asked you to bring it. But you could also be saying that you're incompetent. Again, you forgot to bring what I asked you to bring. And there's a lot of different connotative and denotative meanings to every statement that a person makes and the situation that they make it in. It's it came out of the Gestalt philosophy of psychology, for example, I think, where everything has to have a context. And it is so true in semantics and language that everything exists in a context. We are not computers that communicate with a binary code so that we have an exact meaning to specifically match something else that the other computer has. We always are working in language in a context. So that's a brief rundown of that, okay? I wanted to point out that I was following behind a car the other day, and they had a bumper sticker on the back that said, "Liberalism is fascism." So I looked at that, and what does that bumper sticker really say? He's trying to convey information that he thinks is accurate. Maybe. He believes that liberalism A equals B fascism. And I don't think that was the only thing he was trying to convey with that bumper sticker, even though he may truly believe that. It's an inaccurate thing, and his definitions and his body of knowledge are inaccurate. But he's also, I think, trying to say, if you're a liberal and you're reading this, I hate you, and here's poop in your face. Or if you're not if you're ever considered being a liberal, then don't forget that then you would be a fascist. So it's also trying to convince people to, it's trying to poison the definition of the word liberal. See, this is what, now we can look at two words here. There's liberal and there's fascist. Do they mean the same thing? Well, I think the companies and the radio hosts and so forth have been spending a lot of time and a lot of money defining the word liberal to the masses, even to the point where a lot of people who considered themselves to be liberals don't even want to be called it anymore. They call themselves like progressive, for example, which I don't like as much. But let's look at the word liberal as what I feel the traditional language, the traditional meaning of liberal is that it would be a person that believes that all people, regardless of their race, gender, national origin, or their age, or whatever, should be protected equally under the law. And also saying that there should be a certain amount of opportunity, egalitarianism and opportunity. That's a liberal viewpoint. There are people who would define liberals as being things like automatically a communist. A liberal is a communist. Many people on the radio say that. Or liberals are Satanists, they say. There's a Christian right wing who tell you that the liberals are the ones who are pushing the concept of evolution and other things like that in schools, which is against what the Bible teaches, and therefore it is what the devil wants to learn, the children to learn. So they're, secular humanists and Satanists, they call it, believe. And then, of course, there's those people who believe that they're fascists, which, well, the word fascist is kind of a nebulous word. I mean, if you look it up in the dictionary and you talk to people about it, there's a lot of different opinions about the word fascism. It's generally a word meant to be an insult in politics. My brother and I had a fight about what the meaning of fascism was. He said that fascism means that it's a corporate government alliance, that the corporations and the government work as one in alliance against the common man. Something to that effect, he believes. And I always just said that it's a largely undefined word. It has a specific meaning, which is, a government that existed back in the 30s and the 40s in Italy, which was run by Mussolini, that was very oppressive to its people. It had secret police that if anybody disagreed with the government, they'd investigate those people and arrest them and even shoot them if they didn't agree with the government. And they were closely allied with Adolf Hitler, who, by the way, in one of his speeches, several of his writings, according to the book I read, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, Adolf Hitler considered the liberals to be his greatest enemy, greater enemy than the Jews or the communists. So, liberalism is not fascism, it is not Satanism, and it is not communism. So we just have these words, we manipulate them, and people manipulate them in order to win their point. Like I say, it's word games. What you do in a game with words is you try to convince people with your words to do your bidding, and that's what happens in these types of definitions that they're trying to give for definitions of words. So look at communism. Well, it has a very specific definition. It is a dictatorship of the proletariat, a worldwide domination of the proletariat, whereas all means of production would be owned as a communal thing. No individual ownership of any means of production, which means probably very little private ownership of anything. And with a goal toward worldwide domination of this system. I mean, that's kind of the classic definition of communism. And then there's Satanism. Let's say, what is that? There are people who actually are Satanists. And, liberalism. These words, you throw them around, and what you're really trying to do is you're trying to get people to follow your way of thinking. It's so that you can better yourself in the situation. So, that's where I'm at with this. What we need to do before we start throwing these words around. Like when I said anarchist, I apologize for saying that in the last tape, that anybody who was for less government was an anarchist. That's not true. You can be for less government. That doesn't mean you're for no government. I understand that. Then I was, got a little carried away, and I started using a little hyperbole as a result. So we need, if you want to come to some sort of a political agreement, you need to come to a agreement about definitions, first of all. That's the point behind this entire short diatribe.